The supply chain
Supply chain.
Supply chain.
The supply chains
is one of the most pressing and ever-changing issues facing the pharmaceutical industry today. Welcome to the inaugural episode of PharmTech Explained, a monthly video series that dives deep into pressing pharma development and manufacturing topics powered by industry experts. With pharmaceuticals being such a globally connected industry, the continuing shifts of global policy have caused persistent disruptions. In the US, between 2018 and 2023, 258 unique active ingredients went into national shortage, representing nearly 2,000 individual drug products. According to USP's 2025 Annual Drug Shortage Report, 89% of drug shortages in 2024 carried over from the previous year. More than 40 life-saving drugs have been put on shortage for over 3 years, the average shortage duration being over 4 years. The human cost is not abstract. Shortages lead to delays of care, higher rates of medication error, and increased patient mortality. USP's 2025 report identified 4 compounding systemic drivers: low price, geographic concentration of manufacturing, manufacturing complexity, and quality concerns. Professionals working in the industry describe the psychological effects of these dynamics.
When you're pessimistic about your growth potential and you're worried about the supply chain, then and an ever increasing pressure on decreasing prices, your natural reaction to the industry is to slow down, be more cautious, invest less. That becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in that when you do those things, of course, you grow slower.
This pessimism shapes real decisions about where to manufacture, how much inventory to carry, whether to qualify a second supplier. The industry embraced just-in-time production to minimize inventory, reduce waste, and streamline their operations. The COVID-19 pandemic didn't create the vulnerabilities, it made their consequences painfully visible.
The number one thing is people are really trying to secure their supply chain. So we see really this increased emphasis on vetting your entire supply chain. It's been pretty common that you would certainly vet your primary supplier.
Supply chain transparency has moved from best practice to baseline expectation. Second and third sourcing are becoming standard. Safety stock strategies are being layered in, and geographic diversification is being actively pursued, even when costly. Manufacturing in the United States runs 30 to 50% higher than China, India, or Mexico, making a complete overhaul of global sourcing economically unviable in the short term. But a gradual redistribution of the risk is underway.
We're routinely asked to find and source APIs, but not in India or not in China. Really difficult to do. It's possible. You can get some APIs from Europe and you can even get some from the US, but there aren't a plentiful supply of APIs from those sources, and they tend to be more expensive as well.
Single sourcing is something that needs to be considered by all pharma companies if they're single source on raw materials, and obviously including excipients. One way to overcome single sourcing is to provide the opportunity of supply either for a company that manufactures in more than one manufacturing site globally, the same product, or if they don't, then to have safety stock in different parts of the world so that it compensates for any challenges they may have in the supply chain.
Tariffs, export controls, and the lessons of COVID-19 have been really pushing firms towards more regional manufacturing.
You're starting to see a pivot towards localized supply chains. So many are looking to try to do as much within the region where they operate, where their clinical trials are being executed, as possible.
For CDMOs with multi-site global networks, this is both a challenge and a competitive advantage.
I think those pressures are going to be in place for probably at least the next 3, 4, 5 years. You never know how that's going to play out. But I think looking at similar to the way people reacted to COVID, to where we were trying to prevent crossing borders because of shipping constraints and things like that, I think you're dealing with a very similar situation right now in response to those tariffs.
The US is not alone in facing these vulnerabilities. In Europe, Decades of offshoring have created a structural dependency that regulators are now acting to address.
With the offshoring that has been going on for years from Europe to Asia due to different factors, that we were very dependent on other regions for the supply of some of our critical medicines, and this is more acute in generics, of course.
In response, the European Commission developed the Critical Medicines Act, which was published and entered in the European decision-making process in January 2026. The Act encourages local production, diversified sourcing, and infrastructure capacity to produce essential medicines when crises demand it.
Crises, by definition, are unpredictable. So it's not that you should have a stockpile of what is needed. The essential notion here is that you should be able to produce it when you need it, and actually that you should have the equipment and the infrastructure to produce what you need when you need it. You need to be able to encourage local production at the best and highest standards of quality possible, to be able to make what you need when you need it, but you also need to secure alliances and cooperations in times of crisis when you need to have other options as well.
In the U.S., their approach is multi-pronged.
At USP, this has been an important focus of our work, where we're developing the USP Resiliency Center that includes a variety of programs to support resilience. The first of them is the USP Medicine Supply Map, which now maps the upstream supply chain for all approved U.S. medicines. This is for generic and innovator medicines, but generic is especially important here. And this includes where the finished dose is manufactured, where API is manufactured, and where the key starting materials come from.
Executive orders have sought to establish strategic reserves of critical APIs and incentivize domestic production. But resilience does not come from policy alone. It is a cross-functional challenge requiring R&D, manufacturing, legal, procurement, and regulatory teams working together from a shared understanding of risk.
There are levers that we can use to make the supply chain stronger. One of them is more advanced manufacturing technology, something that the FDA has been encouraging for decades now. There's also opportunities to nearshore product developments and diversify it more broadly.
The fragility of the pharmaceutical supply chain is real. It's documented and it's consequential. So is the commitment of the professionals, researchers, manufacturers, and policymakers working to strengthen it.